G'day guys, Ryan here, your coffee coach, and I'm joined with Mark Folker, the inventor of the Delta cold drip and a lot of other brewers, one you see behind me, the Trinity one. So thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thanks, mate.
And if you haven't watched the other video, you can check out, we interviewed Mark just to take us through his whole journey from the very first brewer to his latest one. But today we're going to be focusing just on the perfect recipe guide for the Delta cold drip. So yeah, over to you, Mark. Tell us your process, your thoughts behind it, and the recipe.
Yes, excellent. Cheers, mate. Well, yeah, thanks for having me along today. So the idea with the Delta cold drip, it's a valveless cold drip product. So what you'll get in the box, you get 3 drip trays that you'll see here. I'll put them aside for now. The way that it basically works is when you've got your generic reservoir that you'd sit and you adjust with a valve. The issue with that is as the water level drops, you've got to come back and readjust it. So what I've got with these, the way that the design works is that the water level on the bottom stays constant because as it's dripping, the water trays above it also dripping. So because this water level stays constant, the drip rate over the coffee stays constant. And then it'll only slow down once the top trays have all drained out. It'll finally just draw down at the bottom and slow down a little bit at the end. But by that time, it's all good and you've got yourself a nice constant drip rate for the brew. So I'll show you how it works. We'll put them aside again. For this recipe today, I'm just using 40 grams of coffee, but you can use up to about 55 to 60.
Yeah, right.
And the other option is we've got the paper filters that you can just see on the table there. If you want, you can put the paper filter on top of your coffee bed, and that evens out the water distribution as it flows. But for now, out of the box, it's not always necessary. I'm not going to use it for this demo. So we've got our 40 grams of coffee here. We're going to place it in the basket. Simple as that. We're going to level that out a little bit as best we can, give it a bit of a tap on the side. So you can see that that 40 grams is really just a bit more than half filled the basket. So you can certainly put more coffee in if you wish. Yep, so I'm just going to pre-wet the coffee grounds that are in the coffee chamber. So you just do that simply to start the extraction process. So I've poured, you can weigh out the water. I've just poured enough to kind of saturate the bed. You can see that the water's slowly filtering through the coffee. Might just add a little bit more. You can see the grounds are still a little bit dry there. So just going to go around the edges. And there's a little bit, people have come up with their own recipes for this as well, the pre-wetting phase. But now I can see the grounds are pretty well evenly saturated around the edge. Once you get to that point, you can then just place the the water tray on top. So that's the one I've already filled up. And now we're going to layer the rest of the trays on top of that. So we've got the second tray, place it simply on top, and then we're going to fill that.
So what I noticed about it is it's so easy. Like, you don't even really have to weigh out. So if you're not a precision brewer, you don't have the scales, or you don't want to get into that, you've designed it in a way that takes out a lot of that element for variation.
Yes.
Without having to go super precise.
Well, that's correct, yeah. It is, in a sense, it's more accurate by being simpler.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because your fill trays are always constant, the level's there, so you don't need to be weighing out the water as you go. And because you don't have to readjust the drip rate, like everyone is always aiming for around the 1 drip per second. In reality, with the more generic reservoir with valve options, you are going to have to come back and readjust it almost every hour to be precise, because it will slow down as time elapses.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed with a lot of the other drip brewers.
Yes.
You constantly have to come back. You leave it out overnight, you come back in the morning and you've blocked up and you've got to change it and you've wasted half the extraction. So.
Yeah, well, here we go. So we know now that we've filled that up to 600 mils. We've got the 3 200 mil trays all going. And I'll place the lid on top. Now, the good thing about the design as well, it's about the footprint of a 2-litre milk jug. Yeah. So you can place that into your fridge door, and it should fit in most fridges. Otherwise, if you can't fit it in the fridge, you can simply leave it out on the bench at room temperature. When the brew's finished, you can then go and place that in the fridge. But yeah, you can see now that that's dripping. The top trays you can see are dripping into the second tray. That's dripping into the third tray. And that water level on that third tray will remain constant, so the drip rate over the coffee is going to be constant for most of the brew. Yep.
Really brilliant. Love that.
So that's about it. You can just now leave that. We can come back later. It'd probably be about 4 to 5 hours with this recipe. If you're using more coffee, that will obviously extend the time of extraction. But what you want to do to dial this one in, if you grind too fine, you're going to see that the water levels rising through the coffee. Then you know you've probably ground a bit too fine. And similarly, if the brew goes too quickly, then you probably need to readjust your grind, make it a little bit finer. And of course, the amount of coffee you're using will also affect the strength. But if you're always using your 600 ml of water, you can just simply adjust the grind dose to get to the strength that you would like. And then just, rather than having to adjust all the different parameters, just adjust the one parameter.
Now we're using a filter roast. I've got a blend that we are using with an anaerobic fermented Colombian coffee, but also I've got a Yirgacheffe coffee and a Guji coffee in there as well, just to help balance it out. What coffee do you recommend people use? I know we're using a lighter roast. Do you also think that more of a medium roast is better for the cold drip?
Well, I would probably suggest, depending on what you're going to do with the coffee, if you're going to just drink it black, like without any milk or any syrup or anything, I'd definitely go for exactly what we've got here, like a fruitier, a lighter filter roast. If you're planning to add milk at the end and just kind of make a more generic kind of iced coffee style drink, then certainly maybe a darker roast would complement that. That looks about it. I think we're good to go, so we can probably come back and
this will take about
enjoy
4
it later
hours
on. Correct,
for it to drip, and we'll get this going, and we'll skip ahead to the end, and I'll enjoy the brew. Unfortunately, you probably won't be here for that because you have other other things to do. But so that's the idea, and thanks so much for going through this, explaining. You know, I think people would see this on the surface level as a completely just another replacement brewer, drip brewer, but you know, after going through in detail your thought process and design process, you can see that this isn't just another drip brewer. This is something that sits alongside that and improves a lot of the problems that the drip brewers have. So we're back. We've skipped ahead in time to bring you the final result now. So a 4-hour drip will give you, depending on what your yield is and what you put in there, but you can also buy more trays if you want to get a higher yield and last. How long does it last in the fridge? Yeah,
well, if you're opting to get this, it comes with a, well, sorry, it doesn't come with this part. This is a silicone lid that we do sell separately. But if you were planning to leave it in the fridge for, say, a few days, this lid will probably extend the life up to about a week, is the feedback we've got from people that have used it. So it does create that airtight seal as you seal that over the top. But yeah, mentioning earlier, look, you can probably brew out of the box without the extra trays and things. You can probably make a recipe up to about 600 mils of cold brew. But if you're wanting to make more, you will need to probably purchase those additional trays as that we do sell separately.
Well, there you go. That's the Delta Cold Drip. So if you're interested in exploring further into drip coffee and something that can just brew for 4 hours in the fridge without having to really do much, as you saw, then this is certainly something to check out. So thank you so much for being on here today. I'm Ryan, your coffee coach, and as always, enjoy your brew.
Cheers.